Welcome to this podcast. My name is Paul. I'm a featured in Scotland, recovered addict. Glad to be here, glad to be clean. Today, we're going to be taking a look at Tradition 11. There's lots of the podcasts on the channel. If you're new to recovery and you've clicked on this, please check out the podcasts on steps 1, 2, and 3. There is, of course, podcasts on all of the steps. There is one on the spiritual malady. There's another one on the ABCs of addiction. There's around 20 personal stories. That's folks' accounts of how they got free from drink and drug addiction and found a new way to live. You can also reach out in the conversation below wherever you see this posted, and you can put your number in the chat and we will get back to you. There is also lots of meetings you can get to where you can hear a general message of faith, hope, and courage, and learn how to live a life clean and sober. Also, on this podcast, later on, there'll be a screen showing you how you can get to Zoom meetings. There are probably several thousand Zoom meetings every single day. And there's certainly probably 20,000 in-person 12-step meetings happen every single day around the world. So get involved and get connected and participate in your sobriety. So what we're doing today is a brief look at the 11th tradition, and here it is. So we can see on the screen there, I shall read it first. Our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and films. So we can see here a little cartoon to help us understand the tradition. It's not a secret society. We carry this message of hope, faith, and courage anywhere we can. But we must ever be aware that self-appointed messiahs speaking for AA, CANA through public media can do us great damage. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and read this bit here first. So alcoholic addicts who've recovered through our program are themselves the strongest attraction that AACANA has. When people are asked what led them to seek AA help, the answer given most often is an AA member. Their chances would have been slim if all of us had remained completely in hiding. But many of us have chosen to tell our friends, neighbours, employers, co-workers, doctors, or spiritual advisors that we're in AA. And when we do so, we're not breaking our anonymity in the meaning of this tradition. Suppose a sick alcoholic never has the good fortune to meet an AA member. How is such a person going to find us? The search will be difficult if the local group thinks it should be anonymous too. This tradition is talking about personal anonymity. Remember, alcoholic addicts will not be attracted to AA or CA if they don't know it exists, or if they have distorted, unfavourable impressions of its members or its programme. Giving the general public an accurate picture of AACANA is the chief job of our public information committees. In addition, they often carry the message to certain groups, from police officers to personnel directors, whose work includes contact with active alcoholics. How to be anonymous on television. Information about AACA is being offered to the public through all the communications media in print and over the air. On radio, it's easy to guard members' anonymity, of course, but TV, not in wide use when the traditions were written, is another matter. According to a conference opinion, members are breaking their anonymity when they are identified on TV as AA members and their faces are shown, whether or not their names are given. And yet this medium with its vast audiences cannot be ignored. That's a very important point there, particularly in the modern era with Zoom. A lot of people choose to show their faces on camera every day on Zoom meetings, which of course is a personal choice as free persons. But in terms of what we're reading here, the AA conference decided a long time ago that if anyone shows their face on the television and identifies as an AA 12-step program member, then they're breaking their personal anonymity. Different techniques have been employed to preserve anonymity on television: masks, screens, backlighting that shows AA's members only as silhouettes, camera angles showing them only from the back. The shadow method diagrammed here is simple, relaxed, and appropriate. So we're not selling personalities. We're explaining AA. We're explaining the CA program. Personal anonymity breaks in the public media not only may discourage timid prospects, they may threaten the anonymity breaker's own sobriety by violating the spirit of the AA program and traditions. So that's all very interesting. So this tradition, once again, our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need to always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and films. And of course, an individual recovering member is the greatest attraction that our program has. However, the reality is we need persons in society to be aware that CAA exist. We need for folks to know. So that does present a dilemma to recovering members, And then it points out that telling those in our immediate circle, employers, friends, neighbours, family, is not breaking this tradition. Yeah, and this point about Zoom meetings is a very important point. On this YouTube channel, I have and continue to maintain my personal anonymity. In the meetings I go along to and help out with, I maintain my personal anonymity. When I first started with 12-step recovery online, would have been, goodness me, over 15 years ago now. And that was chiefly on a website called intherooms.com, which is still flourishing today. It's probably the biggest recovery website on the planet, intherooms.com. Now, unfortunately, they do have some advertising, but it's still completely free to be on the website. It's still completely free to read the tens of thousands of topics and posts that have been written there over the last 15, 18, 20 years. It's still completely free to attend any one of their 120 plus live video meetings that are on every week, with very often the AA meetings still have 300, 400, 500 people at each meeting. And intherooms.com really was the pioneer of video meetings. A lot of people in the modern era think that video meetings have just been around in the last couple of years since the Kung flu, the vastly exaggerated outbreak of the Chinese flu. Persons think that the Zoom meetings, video meetings have just been around recently, but actually they've been going on for well over 1.5 decades. And even before that, there was voice meetings on something called Pal Talk. A lot of the modern CA meetings reaching out in times of illness, both sides of the pond. Indeed, we can recover Ask It Basket, which is the most prolific CA meeting going. It's on 3 times a day, every day, 2 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9:30 all year round. Last year we had 25,000 people through the doors, 500 a week, 70 a day. Now we can recover reaching out, which is on every night at 11 o'clock UK time. They began on Skype, and then we went almost simultaneously to GoToMeeting, which is another app. And then we went similarly to Zoom, which offered better functionality. And of course, we now meet on Zoom every single day, So, my personal opinion is that, for me, it's important to maintain personal anonymity in terms of surname, on meetings. However, in the real world, as someone that has been in situation with baseball bats and and busted 8 times and all this kind of stuff, and had several wrestles around the pavement and had been in situations where knives have been brandished. I'm not feared or scared in any way of having my full name out there. However, we must try to keep the traditions. The traditions are for the health of the group. So it is important, in my opinion, to maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and films. And this is, as a Zoom meeting, this is one of the things that a lot of people don't understand. A Zoom meeting can very easily be recorded. You can very easily take a picture of a Zoom meeting, and you can very easily record a Zoom meeting. You can log on to one, and there's lots of software out there that would enable you to record that Zoom meeting. And in the meetings that I'm a part of, we almost always, occasionally someone will log in late and we don't get a chance to do it, but usually we will delete someone's surname for this tradition because of the need for personal anonymity. We do that in all of our meetings, and I think that's very important. Because not everyone that comes to meetings is there because of loving kindness and truth. There are some characters come along, and as a side note, there are also men that come there looking for women, and women that come there looking for men. And then if it doesn't go according to plan, they can sometimes turn ugly. And it has been known in years gone by that people record people and then seek them out on other social media because they've got their surname. So I think discretion and prudence says that we ought to be discreet when using online meetings. Not everyone is there because of love and goodness. So Tradition 11, without its legion of well-wishers, AA could never have grown as it has. Throughout the world, events and favourable publicity of every description has been the principal means of bringing alcoholics into our fellowship. In AA offices, clubs and homes, telephones ring constantly. One voice says, I read a piece in the newspapers. Another, we heard a radio programme. And still another, we saw a moving picture. Or we saw something about AA on television. It's no exaggeration to say that half of AA's membership is being led to us through channels like these. The inquiring voices are not all alcoholics or their families. Doctors read medical papers about Alcoholics Anonymous and call for more information. Clergymen see articles in their church journals and also make inquiries. Employers learn that great corporations have set their approval upon us and wish to discover what can be done about alcoholism in their own firms. Therefore, a great deal of responsibility fell upon us to develop the best possible public relations policy for AA. Through many painful experiences, we think we have arrived at what that policy ought to be. It is the opposite in many ways of usual promotional practice. We found that we had to rely upon the principle of attraction rather than of promotion. Let's see how these two contrasting ideas, attraction and promotion, work out. A political party wishes to win an election, so it advertises the virtues of its leadership to draw votes. A worthy charity wants to raise money. Forthwith, its letterhead shows the name of every distinguished person whose support can be obtained. Much of the political, economic, and religious life of the world is dependent upon publicised leadership. People who symbolise causes and ideas fill a deep human need. We of AA do not question that, but we do have to soberly face the fact that being in the public eye is hazardous, especially for us. By temperament, nearly every one of us had been an irrepressible promoter, and the prospect of a society composed almost entirely of promoters was frightening. Considering this explosive factor, we knew we had to exercise self-restraint. The way this restraint paid off was startling. It resulted in more favourable publicity of Alcoholics Anonymous than could possibly have been obtained through all the arts and abilities of AA's best press agents. Obviously, AA had to be publicised somehow, so we resorted to the idea that it'd be far better to let our friends do this for us. Precisely that has happened to an unbelievable extent. Veteran newsmen, trained doubters that they are, have gone all out to carry AA's message. To them, we are something more than a source of good stories. On almost every newsfront, the men and women of the press have attached themselves to us as friends. In the beginning, the press could not understand our refusal of all personal publicity. They were genuinely baffled by our insistence upon anonymity. Then they got the point. Here was something rare in the world, a society which said it wished to publicise its principles and its work, but not its individual members. The press was delighted with this attitude. Ever since these friends have reported AA with enthusiasm, with which the most ardent members would find hard to match. There was actually a time when the press of America thought the anonymity of AA was better for us than some of our members did. At one point, about 100 of our society were breaking anonymity at the public level. With perfectly good intent, these folks declared that the principle of anonymity was horse and buggy stuff. Something appropriate to AA's pioneering days. They were sure that AA could go faster and farther if it availed itself of modern, including many persons of local, national, and many were. Why shouldn't their membership be publicised, thereby encouraging others to join us? The acting profession disagreed with them. The foundation wrote letters to practically every news outlet in North America, setting forth our public relations policy of attraction rather than promotion, and emphasizing, since that time, editors and rewrite men have repeatedly deleted names and pictures of members from AA copy. Frequently, they've reminded ambitious individuals of AA's anonymity policy. They've even sacrificed good stories to this end. The force of their cooperation has certainly helped. Only a few AA members are left who deliberately break anonymity at the public level. This, in brief, is the process by which AA's Tradition 11 was constructed. To us, however, it represents far more than a sound public relations policy. It's more than a denial of self-seeking. This tradition is a constant and practical reminder that personal ambition has no place in AA. In it, each member becomes an active guardian of our fellowship. Well, there's a whole lot there, friends, and bear in mind you can pause and rewind this podcast. You can also read Out of the 12 and 12 in your own time, which is indeed the book we're looking at, which is our secondary book. Our primary book would be Alcoholics Anonymous, the big book. The 12 Steps of 12 Traditions would be our secondary book. That's what we're looking at right now. So this tradition has to do with public relations and personal anonymity. The next tradition 12 has to do with personal anonymity, which of course we'll look at on the next podcast. Anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all our traditions. Every man has to place principles before personalities. So we'll look at that, and that's a very powerful tradition. This one is specifically about the policy of reaching out to other people in society, to non-AA members, with our message and to let them know we're here. The idea of getting folk to come to our meetings, that's really what this tradition is about. But as a part of that, we need to maintain personal anonymity. Now, that in the first instance is our full names and addresses. And also our faces. You know, and there was a big talk about this at the AA conferences many years ago, and it was decided that for any member to show their face on television is breaking anonymity. You know, and I don't think you can possibly argue that a Zoom meeting is not television. Television is simply the broadcasting of images and voices of real people. That's what television is. So Zoom is a form of television. I know that might not equate in the natural modern mind, but it is the case. If you're broadcasting your face and your voice, then it's films. You can see there press, radio, and film. That's what it is. It's just that it's live. And as I said earlier, there's been software around for 2 decades, plus probably, that you can very simply record anything that's being broadcast on your laptop, tablet, or phone. And indeed, I've seen it done back, as I say, in the pioneering days, if you like, of video meetings on intherooms.com 15 plus years ago. There were persons that would record the video meetings, and then what you have then is not only the issue of a person's faces being captured, but their personal accounts of recovery from addiction. You see, and of course, in the wrong hands, in the wrong circumstances, that can be dangerous information. Unfortunately, not everyone who comes to our meetings is there for love and truth and righteousness. See, so there are persons that could come along to the meetings, get some information and some personal details of the person sharing, record the meeting, including the video and the audio, then go on social media and repost it, outing somebody publicly for things they share in a 12-step meeting. See? Now, that's very problematic. See, and unfortunately, there are people like that. Meetings are public meetings. Anyone is welcome. So for that reason, someone else might say, well, you could still record the audio. Yes, you could, but if you didn't have the surname and the face, it'd be largely difficult to do a great deal of damage with an audio recording of somebody without their visual image and without their surname. You see. So there's discretion and wisdom, and I think the principle of this tradition is discretion and modesty. And the next tradition talks about principles before personalities. And this first bit of the reading makes clear that out on an individual basis, largely that end up bringing folk to AA, to CA, to NA through neighbours and relatives, but also television programmes. And certainly in Britain, it's changing now mercifully, but certainly up until relatively recently, up until 10, 15 years ago, AA, CA, NA was very little heard of in Great Britain. The only knowledge of it was the occasional reference in Hollywood movies, and the citizenry watch. I would say up until 15 years ago, probably over 95% of British people had not heard of AA or CA or NA. That's what I would say. And even now, probably only 4 or 5 or maybe 8% of the masses would have any reasonable inkling of what we do. And that's very unfortunate, but that's how it is. And one of the reasons for that is the wicked British government has not told the masses that we are here and we're free. And the result is that people are dying of addiction because they don't know we're here. And the simple reason why the government of Britain doesn't tell people is because we talk about God. And we know that the British government is largely anti-God, and that's just the reality of it. That's why they don't proliferate and tell the masses that we are here and lives are being saved every day in our meetings through these steps. But anyway, back to the tradition. So this business of maintaining personal anonymity is so that we don't promote any individual. We've got to watch out for big shotism, it's very important, over the years, I've come across individuals that it's all about them, what they've done, and I have 2 men in mind that are quite prolific in 12-step recovery and are very forceful, and one of them particularly very domineering in the south of England, and militant and sort of harsh and problematic, very problematic as well. And, it's principles before personalities. If you look after the principles, the persons will look after themselves, or God will look after the persons. And so I personally think this tradition, in the round, its main application is concerning Zoom meetings for me, because very, very few members of 12-step meetings will actually be on what we call television or in the newspaper or on the radio. So therefore, this tradition presently largely has the application of Zoom meetings. And in Zoom meetings, I think it's very important to certainly not use our surname. And as I said, the position of the conferences, if any of my listeners are interested, you can't say the hierarchy of AA, because there isn't a hierarchy. It's the members, and then the groups. It's an upside down pyramid, the service structure. The members, the groups, the region, the area, the region, the district, and then the World Conference. It's a downward pyramid. The members and the groups are at the top of the pyramid in our structure. It has to do with humility and the mind and heart of God, you see. And so it's the idea of principles first. So now it's talking about publicising AA, CA, and of course, on the face of it, it's a big problem that members in society don't know that we are here. And it talks about persons that have chosen to reject this tradition and decided to put their full names out there. I know a man currently, and when he goes to a particular current AA group, he has his full name up there. And in his share, he often says, "I recover out loud, because I used out loud." And he has his full name on there and his whereabouts, and that's his choice, but that's not in line with the traditions, you see. So I appreciate you listening to the podcast, friends. I hope that's been helpful. As I say, the main ethos is, to maintain personal anonymity. So we need to be cautious out there with our names and our details. So thanks so much for tuning in. On the screen right now is information about meetings. So take a screenshot of this, pause the video, write some numbers down. There's lots and lots of meetings. All these meetings are on every single day. As I say, Week in Recovery is an exceptionally healthy meeting that's on 3 times a day, every day, 2 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9:30 UK times. It's the one in the purple at the top. All those meetings are on every day. In the middle is a great 24-hour meeting called the New Zealand Marathon. And then on the bottom right-hand side is the 319 Marathon. They permanently own. There's always 140 plus folk there. The UK Samaritans numbers there, the CA UK helpline. So that's a wrap. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll be back soon with Tradition 12. So stay safe in the solution, and we'll pray out with the wee version of the Serenity Prayer. So who's large and in charge? That will be God. God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we can't change, courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Okay, family, stay safe. Shalom, shalom.